Hello readers, I'm Amy and welcome to the Forever TBR project. This is in collaboration with the wonderful, lovely Hillary from Melted Books. We're going to be going through our respective bookshelves and some of the books on our TBR that have been there for well over a year. And we're going to choose one book from each other's TBR that person has to read. So I have a pile of 5 books here that I've been meaning to read for the last 2 to 4 years, probably at this point. So let's go ahead and do a brief look at all of these. The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. This is by an Indian author. I don't even remember what this is about, but it was recommended to me by someone at Barnes & Noble based on the fact that I like books that explore intersexuality. So I'm hoping that I was right in picking this up and that there's an intersexual character, but I'm not sure because I haven't read it yet. Jane Eyre. It's the only classic on this list. Unless you count Clan of the Cave Bear as a classic, I'm not sure. Jane Eyre is one that I've been meaning to read for so long. I didn't read the Brontes growing up, and I finally read both of Anne Bronte's books a couple years ago. And I've been meaning to work my way through the Bronte sisters, and Shirley was just really holding me up. I finally unhauled that. I would like to get to Jane Eyre sometime in 2021. So there's that. Clan of the Cave Bear. Never read this. I see it around everywhere. I had a friend that I went to Barnes & Noble with who was just like, you need to pick this up and you need to read it. And I remember starting it and I wasn't in the headspace for it. Like, it was a slower start and never got around to it. Again, don't really know what it's about, but I think it's like cave people. The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. I feel like I'm one of the only people in the world who has not read this yet. This is a woman who, her cells were given to like cancer research or something. Her cells were very influential in science and went towards helping a lot of people. The family never got reparations for it. She was never recognized for her cells helping people, and they were taken without permission. So, again, important book. And lastly, one of Hillary's favorites on my shelf is Eat, Pray, Love. She's been wanting me to read this for a while. I've been wanting to read this for a while, haven't gotten around to it. So we'll see what she picks.
Hi everyone, it's Hillary from Melted Books, and I have chosen Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. Amy, I think that you probably predicted that I would pick this for you, but I'm really curious to hear your thoughts about this. It's been a while since I've read this book, but I remember being so inspired by the journey that Elizabeth Gilbert took in this, and it inspired me to make some big changes to my career, and I will always look back on this book as a very positive reading experience, and I hope to reread it again someday. But I hope that you enjoy this, and if you do like this, then I recommend Eat, Pray, Love Made Me Do It, which is a collection of stories of people in real life who were actually inspired by Elizabeth Gilbert in Eat, Pray, Love, and they made their own life changes. So check this out if you enjoy Eat, Pray, Love. I can't wait to hear what you think.
Sorry for the lighting, but I'm just getting cozy and getting ready to hang out in my library and do some reading. Last night I started Eat, Pray, Love. I got, I think, the first 5 chapters done. So, there's this Japa Malas. It's something like that. It's Indian. Um, it's what inspired the rosary, but it has 108 beads. So there's 108 parts to this book, divided up into 3 main parts for the 3 countries that she visits: Italy, India, and Indonesia. So we're starting off in Italy, and just kind of like, I feel like I'm just getting to know the author. Um, I'm a little nervous because it mentioned talking about religion in this book, and that can be super hit and miss for me. But we'll see how it goes. The writing's really nice so far. She has a lot of really, like, funny little metaphors and stuff that she uses in her writing. And besides the metaphors, this is also reminding me a little bit of The Princess Bride, because in reading that book, the author just has so much fun with parentheses. And Elizabeth Gilbert is kind of doing the same thing. She has a lot of parentheses in here where she just puts in a funny little note. So I'm seeing her personality come out slowly. I don't really have too many thoughts on it so far because, like I said, I've only read 5 of the 108 chapters, but it's not that long. So knowing that this book is going to have a lot of really short, digestible chapters is giving me a lot of hope. So yeah, I will check in after I've read a little bit more of this. All right, so I am currently on chapter 17. That's just under 50 pages in to Eat, Pray, Love. When I last started my reading, I think I was on like chapter 6 where I picked up, and it was going along. It was a little slow. Just kind of talking about how she ended up getting to her first country, which was Italy. And then, this is so nerdy, the thing that really caught my attention, especially with taking my history class right now and really diving into women's history and getting interested in history again, the section that really got me into this book and got me really interested was on the history of language. Again, super nerdy of me, and no wonder Hillary loves this book. There's a history of language in here. But it was talking about how people came to have a common language, how French is essentially Parisian, because Paris was like the big city and that it became a place of like the accepted language of the country. But Italy had a bunch of stuff going on, a bunch of different occupiers. They didn't really have a set language. So a group of people took the language that they thought was the most beautiful, which was specifically Dante's language, like the guy who wrote about the 9 circles of hell. Why can I not remember the name of that book? Anyways, they took his specific language, which is comparable to, say, taking Shakespeare's specific language and turned it into the Italian language. So she was saying whenever people first like started speaking this collective Italian, which was essentially Dantean, it was kind of like speaking Shakespeare to everyone at the time, which I remember doing that in high school with some of my friends. Whenever we would have to read Shakespeare for English, the whole rest of the day, we would just speak in what we assumed was Shakespearean to each other because we thought it was fun. And then the next part, it was like the chapter right after that really got me, because I'm finding this is pretty typical when it comes to people who are good writers who have also dealt with mental health issues. The way they write about those mental health issues are achingly familiar. And in this, she's not quite 2 weeks into her trip to Italy, and depression and loneliness come to visit. And depression and loneliness are personified as these cops. They can't leave her alone because it's their job to follow her around. Depression is a bit of a bully. She can't fight back because he has a billy club. And loneliness is a little more polite, and he's the one who curls up with her in bed. And she's like, well, now I'm going to have to sleep with this. And reading that section where depression and loneliness were people, I mean, like I said, if you're a good writer and you have dealt with mental illness, you're gonna make it relatable. And that was something that really sat with me. I've been doing a lot better lately with my own depression and loneliness, like a lot better. But reading that, it still brings me back to that's what it felt like. And I hate that people are made to feel like that through circumstance, through genetics, which that was actually the part that kind of brought me up again after talking about how sad depression and loneliness is. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but she has this paragraph where she's thinking about, like, where does all of this depression come from? And she uses parentheses to add in some thoughts and make it a little more comedic and make it a little lighter read, which really helped to balance out the writing. So she's asking if depression was psychological, mom and dad's fault. Was it cultural? Is this just the fallout of post-feminist America career girl trying to find balance in an increasingly stressful and alienating urban world? Was it astrological? Am I so sad because I'm a thin-skinned Cancer whose major signs are all ruled by unstable Gemini? That just, it lightens it up, and you can see she's a good writer because of the way she's balancing the moods in this. So with this last couple of sections, I'm definitely feeling more invested in this book. So let's hope going forward that I keep my interest with it. Alright everybody, slight change of scenery here. I don't really film much in this corner, and this corner was looking a little lonely, so I thought I'd hop on over here for my next little discussion on Eat, Pray, Love. Hillary, I'm sorry. I have DNF'd this. Part of it is because I'm feeling a little slumpy lately. This is the correct definition of ironic, but nonfiction books got me out of my slump, and now nonfiction books seem to be putting me back in my slump, because I am reading, or was reading, 4 different nonfiction books at the same time, and I'm feeling a little tired of it. Also, hopefully I'm in focus through this. My focus is acting funky again, so I'm like having to turn the dial manually, and you never know how this is going to turn out. I can look at the little screen now, but it could look completely different on the big screen, so sorry if I'm a little fuzzy. Anyways, I made it to the India section, which is the second section of the 3 parts of this book, and at that point I just wasn't feeling it. There were definitely some parts of this book that were interesting. I did appreciate Gilbert's humor, but I just didn't really get the point. Like, I mean, the point is to go on a journey and kind of find herself and find different things that work well for her, but it just didn't really feel like it was going anywhere. And from a memoir, memoirs I tend to expect, like, this is the topic, this is the point, we're going to zero in on this and go for it. And I don't know, it wasn't working out for me that way. But I am interested, now that I've read her writing style, I'm interested in maybe trying some of her other books. The one I've heard the most about is City of Girls. I don't think I've heard a single bad review about that book, so I might go ahead and pick that up eventually. I think Eat, Pray, Love just isn't the book by her that I should be picking up. But nonetheless, I loved doing this Forever TBR project with Hillary, bestest booktube friend. I hear that her reading turned out pretty good, so I think her video is going up before this if everything goes all right. Yeah, if you want to try this collaboration with some of your friends, please do. Tag me in it so I can see what books you're reading. This was so much fun. I would love if this became like the next big thing, because I know how many of us have endless TBRs of books that we want to read and just never picked up. And challenge your friend to pick up one of those books that you think is interesting. That is going to be it for me. So please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. Maybe help me get through my TBR at some point. Yeah, I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.